Cool, good stuff. We have coming up here, changing gears, shifting gears. That was me shifting gears. We're going to get into an interview, and we're going to welcome back somebody who was with us a little bit earlier from urban-gro, Dan Droller. There's Dan. Hey, nice to see
Hey,
you
Brent,
again.
good to see you again.
And then also John from Zuber, Lawler. You're like a cannabis expert, right? Right, John?
I mean, I like to think so. I got a weekly cannabis news podcast, so I hope.
That was a setup for you, and I think you smashed it.
Yeah, I'm as amazing at cannabis as I am modest. Those are my two of my best qualities. So thank you for that, Brent. I appreciate that.
I'll let you guys have at it.
Okay, cheers. Thank you to our hosts, of course. Now, before we start, Dan and everyone, I like to do my customary prayer to the video chat gods. May our Wi-Fi connections be sturdy. May Amazon Prime deliver another time. And may our dogs and kids be quiet. Amen. All right. And with that. Made a little cameo. Liked it that much. So Dan, I have the pleasure of introducing you. So Dan spoke earlier, but to give a little bit more detail, Dan joined urban-gro in February 2018, and he now serves there as Executive Vice President of Corporate Development and Investor Relations. He helps oversee urban-gro strategic partnerships, investments, and communications to investors. So prior to joining urban-gro, he held various business development roles at technology startups, including Massroots Inc. and Chartboost, which was acquired by Benzinga. And before that, he led management consulting engagements for Deloitte Consulting. He holds a BA in neurobiology, interesting, from Harvard College, and a Master of Business Administration from, I don't know how to pronounce, Yale School of Management. There you go. Couldn't help myself as a Brown guy. Guy from Brown. So Dan, thank you for joining us again. And I just let's just start by saying, can you give a little bit of an intro for those who didn't see the presentation earlier to urban-gro and talk about the role that companies like yours fill in the industry as ancillary businesses?
For sure. And, I think the neurobio, I think my mom, I don't think she's watching, but she's still wondering when I'm going to go to med school too. So that's, I get that question sometimes. So thanks, John, and thanks, Benzinga, again for having us back on. If you didn't catch the presentation before, urban-gro is currently an architect-led design build firm. We're experiencing strong growth in two existing sectors within the controlled environment agriculture space, and that's the indoor controlled environment agriculture space, and that is food-focused vertical farming and cannabis. So we offer our services first, and then we're able to spec into equipment that then basically drops down to our margin. We're pretty excited about the growth we've seen. We uplisted to NASDAQ in February of this past year, and have been around for about 8 years. As far as ancillary businesses, John, sort of the value that they bring to the industry, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously states are coming online bit by bit, right? But I mean, it's the ancillary business. I kind of feel like the analogy, right, to the old mining. It's
Sure.
not sort of about being the mining, right, but providing the pickaxes and stuff like that. So if you could elaborate essentially on the roles that you play, and also just talk about the value proposition of the company as what sets you apart from some competitors.
Sure. So we are fortunate to, in a sense, do the picks and shovels, or the design for the picks and shovels too. And it's what got us onto NASDAQ, or to be able to get onto NASDAQ, because we're not plant touching. So we feel very fortunate for that. But in terms of the value that we bring to our clients who are plant touching, as the rest of ancillary businesses, right? urban-gro has been around for 8 years. The way we started, where our two co-founders had a lighting business. They would just outfit convention centers, hospitals with new lighting, HPS or LED, and they saw in Colorado that there was a demand for horticulture lighting to be sold into cannabis, and there was no one that was actually really filling that role, and they sort of jumped on it. And as ancillary cannabis businesses did, especially in the early days, they just began responding to demand from customers as they asked for more and more things. urban-gro's sort of foray into services, and what became our sort of wheelhouse of like sort of services that we provide to clients, was what we call integrated cultivation design, or the guts of the grow. And that's literally the flow of water and air through the system. And the design that we provided to clients is down to construction ready, permit ready documents. It was beyond what anyone else could get. Literally how to put together manifolds down to where each emitter state goes, and it was incredibly detailed, so that the value to clients was you could hand these drawings off to GCs, and they do it and not screw it up, right? They know how to do it. Our value basically is in our people. We have about 80 employees now, a little bit over. We consider 2/3 of those to be experts, and we view that as our real benefit to the market. They're plant scientists, horticulturists, architects, designers, engineers, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, controls engineers, and they bring their experience to bear. urban-gro has done nearly 500 CEA facilities at this point. And so that's really what we sort of the value that we provide. And we can move quickly, and basically through that holistic integrated design that we provide, the ability to spec and equipment, we really help our customers get to market much more quickly than they would if they were just doing it all on their own.
Got it. And so, you touched upon earlier, right, that the past year has been a year of growth in terms of expanding the amount of services that you've done. You've made, a strategic acquisition, right? You've new partnerships and stuff in terms. So, could you talk a little bit about how you are expanding everything that you're doing from the core service that helped build you up to provide further value to clients?
Yeah, for sure. So we raised about $66 million in February with the uplist. So the last 2 quarters, we've been cash flow positive. The last 5 quarters, we've been adjusted EBITDA positive. Majority of that capital is going to be used for acquisition, corporate development efforts. So one of the things we realized in sort of the offering of services to clients, what provides value to them, there were a few things that we were missing, and specifically things that you want to get us in earlier. In fall of 18, prior to our uplist, we acquired an engineering firm, Impact Engineering, that had amazing experience within grow facilities and sort of providing mechanical equipment, calculating loads, et cetera, within cultivation facilities. We decided we wanted to get in even earlier. We would get clients to bring to us drawings that they had gotten their investment for their grows based on, that were in 3 tiers with X number of plants per tier, X number of rooms, and the amount of room that they had put in the drawings for water would have done it only for a facility about a quarter the size. And so we had to be the bearer of bad news. We wanted to the client and be like, you're gonna have to go back to your investors and tell them. We wanted to be able to get in earlier and earlier to provide more value to clients, and sort of prevent those costly mistakes, and be able to offer this holistic integrated approach to design. So part of the use of our proceeds from the uplist in February, we acquired and closed in July of this year an architecture firm, a design firm called 2WR. They have offices in Colorado and Georgia. They have a cannabis-focused subsidiary called MJ12. And that was great because it got us in 3 months earlier. We think the holistic design generally saves about 6 months in people's approach to market and getting into the market. And we are looking pretty aggressively at cross-selling opportunities that provides. So, the continuing growth of those services, something else that we're looking at right now. If we look at those sort of level of services that we can provide to clients, what we think could be probably pretty helpful is something like a construction management firm. So we don't want to swing hammers, but we think that construction management travels incredibly well as we continue on our expansion to Europe, to food. They just know how to manage the actual process for getting facilities up. We do offer that service right now through architect-led design build, but we think we can buttress it with the acquisition. And again, it travels extremely well. The only other thing that I'd like to add that we're continuing to look at, positive cash flow businesses, service-based businesses, things that are accretive to our core businesses that we have cross-selling opportunities. We're always looking at ways that we can help our clients out. One of the things that clients came to request of us was help with financing. So this, I think, is what you were referring to. We announced in October, I believe, a partnership with Excess Financial. Excess Financial is a equipment financing firm. They do non-dilutive equipment, generally for MSOs, of whom 60% of our core customers. And we think that's a really great value add. We participated in a convertible note round of theirs, contributing about $2.5 million to their 43.5, I think, round. And we really think that's going to provide great value. It was sort of the first partnership that we announced in our urban-gro financial services, and we're going to continue to look to buttress other opportunities to provide that same type of value to clients. You think of delivery, a lot of the equipment purchases are a little bit of the last mile. We don't want our clients to have to compromise on that based on the CapEx requirements that requires.
Got it. So, I mean, you also touched upon, when you were speaking about Europe, right, and further movement into food. So I was just kind of curious if you could give a little bit more detail in terms of the moves that you're making and, geographically, and also in terms of, the services that you're focusing on and the industries that you're focusing on.
Yeah. So our three pillars of growth as we grow, and it's worth mentioning also for those that weren't on earlier, we finished Q3 with 18.3 million in revenue. Our trailing 12 months are 52.4. We gave guidance that we're going to be above 60 million in revenue, positive adjusted EBITDA. Last year, as comparison, we finished at around 26 million. So it's a huge year of growth. As we continue to grow, the three areas that we're looking at are, one, increasing our services offerings and the value that we're providing to clients. And that's either through new avenues like the MJ12 architecture firm, or additional ones like construction management, or things just to buttress up basically the demand that we have with additional engineers, additional experts. We will always lead with our depth and breadth of experience, and we view that as incredibly valuable. The two other areas of growth are, one, Europe, and two, diversifying into food. And I'll touch on both of those a little bit right now. Europe's been interesting, right? So COVID shut down travel pretty hardcore. We view Europe as a large opportunity, not only in terms of cannabis. I think 2025 it's forecast to be, the number's going to qualify. I think it's around 4 billion. Food globally, indoor CEA about 13 billion. We wanted to be part of Europe, and we think our expertise and experience travels well. It's interesting. You think entering Europe, Europe is the horticulture capital of the world generally, right? There's a lot of large companies in the Netherlands. We are diversified from that, or different from that, in that we focus on indoor CEA, which is very much quite different. And two, our cannabis experience. No one comes with nearly that amount of cannabis experience that we're bringing to Europe. And so we wanted to enter it. Just were sort of held off from COVID. We wound up engaging with a couple of commercial representation agreements. Those bore fruit. We've since hired a VP of horticulture. I'm here giving this interview and not Brad, because he's literally currently in Europe right now, furthering some of our partnerships and working with both current and potential clients. And it's been pretty exciting what's been happening. So on the cannabis front, we're engaged with active service delivery projects, I think in about 4 countries, maybe 5 countries right now, and those have been pretty awesome. Again, what we found exhibiting at ICBC in Berlin in July, and later that year, this year I guess, Green Tech in Amsterdam, is just our cannabis knowledge, our cannabis experience travels really, really well. Most recently, on our earnings call, November 9th, we announced we signed a development agreement with a company called Urban Health Farms to develop basically up to approximately 20 vertical farms for growing food within Europe. And these are complete turnkey solutions that will basically hand off these facilities to them. And that's great. It's really validation of the investment that we've put into Europe and our continued investment there as we build it out. So we're excited what that means for Europe, obviously, in terms of both value that we're providing to Urban Health Farms, but also our own growth there, but also our diversification into food. When we take a look at indoor CEA, John, we've learned from growing with cannabis how to grow well. Growing plants indoors is hard, and I'm not a horticulturist. I've just gotten that message pretty well received, and our experience brings to bear with it quite a bit. And what we found is that whatever the crop type, you obviously have to change some things, but with knowledge of that crop, you can grow plants indoors, and whether it's cannabis or food. And so it's been an exciting sort of payoff of our approach that we were able to sign that agreement. The only other thing we'll obviously look to do, we have an entity set up. We are opening an office out there in Europe. we'll look to continue to hire or acquire companies operating in the space out there so that we can basically provide the same service delivery that we're known for here over there.
Got it. So yeah, so it begged the question, why, as you're expanding into Europe, why do companies there go with, urban-gro? And as you said, that you are the plans to acquire companies there. You take the expertise essentially in cannabis that they don't have there, right, to there. And so you're a value proposition to them based on that experience. I mean, any other notes that you want to add with respect to that?
Yeah, sure. There are a few things, right? So one, it is absolutely the depth and breadth of experience in cannabis that's just not quite present over there yet, right? It's worth noting that we want to do service delivery over there for sure, but a lot of the engineering, integrated cultivation design, we expect to do and are currently doing here in the States, and we're just transferring it over there. There's a lot of more on the commissioning side, the grow care side, our recurring revenue operation that basically provides training, maintenance, support that we need to staff up over there and just have people over there for that delivery. The only sort of point of differentiation that might make sense to talk about is the model that is somewhat present in Europe right now is people need to have their plans and then they find a company to put those plans into action. And we're sort of bridging those two things for our clients right now in terms of helping them develop what their plans need to look like, how they need to grow, what they should be thinking about. And then we're able to then put those plans and basically bring them to fruition into life for those customers. And even more so, not leave, right? So probably typical design build firms might take off after the firm is out, the operation is up and running after 30 days, and we help stick around and provide ongoing service and support to those customers. And so I think those
really
are
like a turnkey solution, right? From the
well, yeah,
inception,
turnkey solution
essentially.
that sticks around. Yeah, and so
Yep.
so it really is a great differentiating factor for us that provides significant value to our clients and customers, we believe.
So, so as you've identified these, three core areas, these ways that you're going to grow, what are the considerations from an infrastructure, right, to ensure that you're essentially ready to scale and ready to fully explore these different areas of growth that you've identified?
Yeah, so scaling is hard. So, one of the things, obviously, we talked about labor for that service delivery. So we're hiring, continuing to hire experts. I think we have about 30 some odd job recs open right now, and we're also obviously looking to see if there are acquisitions that can help account for some of that, especially in different geographical areas as we go there. The other aspect worth mentioning, so when we are providing our holistic design, we're doing both the architecture, the engineering, the integrated cultivation design. We're speccing in all that equipment, and we're equipment agnostic, but we'll spec in what makes sense for the cultivators and the owners. Because it's spec'd in, it's not easy, but our procurement department is quite adept at getting product to customers that they need quickly. And our purchasing power at this point is pretty strong. So what we're seeing is as our design services scale, one, it begets equipment purchases, but two, we don't need to build up those departments as much as it scales. So most of that revenue, more of that margin does drop down to our EBITDA and operating margin, just because we don't need to continue to hire up to service that procurement. And so that we sort of see as a really big benefit as we continue to grow. But generally, in answer to your question, it is labor infrastructure, some operating infrastructure in the new geos. And the only other thing that we are talking about and looking at in terms of some of our use of capital as it relates to infrastructure is different pieces of technology that may be outside of our core corporate development approach of services based and positive cash flow, and that's technology plays that will in a sense help buttress up our recurring revenue offering, like grow care, which is more labor based.
Okay. No one's hopped in, so I think we might have time for one more question.
Okay.
So I think whenever we're talking about cannabis, the biggest, domino is federal legalization. So
Yeah.
How are you guys set up? When that domino falls, federal legalization, how are you set up that, you're going to be ready? How's that going to impact your business?
For sure. So, and appreciate that. John and I talked a little bit about this before, and we share some similar thoughts. So, our take on it is that federal legalization in the U.S. is about, say, 3 to 5 years out, if that early. We are part of a group called the National Cannabis Roundtable. Brad, our CEO, sits on the board of the organization, along with a couple of CSOs of some pretty big MSOs here in the States. And it's an issue advocacy organization focused, on federal legalization, on SAFE Act, social equity components, access to the capital markets, those types of things. Our take on it is that federal legalization, when it happens, will include elements of, well, one, all those other things from more active expungement and access to capital, but it will respect the integrity of state platforms, and we think that's going to be really, really important. So we don't believe it's going to be just a giant greenhouse in Southern California growing cannabis for the entire country. There's going to be opportunities, again, for the type of services that we provide, say between 30 to 50,000 square feet facilities. It's not all we do. We're currently working on an 800,000 square foot facility, but that there'll still be opportunities for that after legalization. We see within cannabis in the States, that as states come online, there's a lot of growth there. We're still seeing and actively having engagements in Canada, despite everyone thinking that Canada's done, and obviously Europe as different countries come online. And in terms of respecting the integrity of state platforms in the U.S., we're seeing some of the same things in Europe as new countries come online. Right now, most of the cannabis in Europe is through imports. We're seeing a lot of changes as countries come online there, that they want to shore up their own domestic production. So we see a lot of corollaries there. And while we obviously advocate for legalization, and we support a National Cannabis Roundtable for all the reasons I spoke about, we think our business is still strong after legalization. We just think that might mean that new entrants come in the market, but we'll be incredibly well poised to compete.
With years and years of experience helping the biggest companies in it. Yes. And certainly Europe, if we have Germany, 85 million people, the largest market, come on first, not a bad place to start, right?
No, that ICBC conference in Berlin in July was a good move, it seems like.
Yes, absolutely. And there he is. I knew he was going to drop in. Brent, I think on behalf of Dan and I, thank you so much to the host. We greatly appreciate it. Dan,
Thanks,
thank
Brent.
you so much for dropping knowledge bombs about your company and all the exciting stuff that you guys are working on and have in the future.
It's a pleasure, John. Thank you so much, man.
It was a pleasure to have you guys. And the interwebs, God's blessed us. So let's give a shout out to that there. Good call on that one, John.